Tonight on Myteam. Uncontrollable chaos in Canada. Sergio Perez is himself, and we could be back to winning ways in Formula 1. Greetings, you gorgeous geese, and welcome back to the F1 23 Myteam career mode. Today, we're at the Canadian Grand Prix for a 35% race once again. Looking at the performance index, we have jumped Haas, but McLaren are on the march. It's thanks to two upgrades in the powertrain department and the chassis upgrade that we find ourselves ahead of Haas in the performance index, and we're looking to bounce back after heartbreak at the Spanish Grand Prix. So let's see what we can do in qualifying. Yes, it's that day. Never mind, I'll go bugger myself. Q1 time then in Canada. I decided to go for the full shebang here in Montreal as we maul our way through the first two corners, and we got third. It's actually the Ferraris that are setting the pace, the only cars in the 1-minute 9s, but it looks like Red Bull have dropped the ball slightly. Their horn's not sharpened enough. Verstappen 7th and Perez in 8th place. Enzo, you're actually killing me, mate. He's killing me. Actually, let me check my pulse quickly. Yeah, he's killed me. I'm dead. We've risen again like The Undertaker, though. Back for another round here at Canada. Our first proper lap in anger that we can see at Montreal. Into the first corner, then braking at that change of tarmac on the right, cutting the curb nice and fine, and then hugging the inside for the second part. Get the car straightened out quickly as possible, and the traction, the tyres bite to the bitumen absolutely beautifully. Qualifying completed, and through the first sector, we are mighty quick. In fact, it's the best first sector of the entire session. And as we come out of the final chicane, up towards the line, DRS wide open, the shortest line of attack possible. And as you can see, we're P1. We are absolutely massive once again, bouncing back from where we left off at the Spanish Grand Prix, potentially going for a third pole position in a row, and it's not even close. Half a second between us and championship leader Sergio Perez. Hamilton barely scrapes through. Oscar so unlucky not to get through, but kudos to Yuki Tsunoda, who gets through brilliantly, so well done him. This is it then, Q3, our last chance in qualifying to really ascertain and assert our dominance in this Formula 1 grid. Through the first corner, not cutting the curb as much as I would have wanted to, but getting it all together again for turn number 2 under Mick Schumacher's cruises. I see he really branched out after his F1 career. Luckily, our car not handling like a boat as we head through the chicane. Through the first sector, it is not the fastest one of the entire session, which alarms me considering how good we were in Q2. So we have to have our wits about us and just keep things consistent. DRS wide open as we head down this little back straight under Qatar Airways, which is unethical, but through the chicane, keeping it within the white lines and just about getting it through with no problems. Perez sets the fastest time so far. He's on provisional pole. The hairpin is where we really shine, though, getting the turning that we need and then planting the power down. The traction is tremendous, and our DRS is about to be despicable as we open up our flap nice and wide. This is not going where I thought it would, but underneath the Rolex badge, and time really is on our side as we head through the final chicane. Get the car straightened out as quickly as possible. The shortest line of attack. Across the line we go, and that is so close, but it's pole again in Formula 1. It's 3 in a row. The hat-trick of pole positions. We did it with victories, and now we do it with pole position on the grid. Fantastic, and it's such fine margins. My goodness me. 200ths separating us and Sergio Perez. The Ferraris even extremely close together and close to that pole battle, so great to see them lobbying up towards, I don't know what I'm saying, but they're doing very well to be towards the sharp end. Hamilton gets the better of Russell in the end, and Tsunoda can't get anywhere higher than P10, but still a commendable effort nonetheless. It was misfortune for us over in Catalonia last time. Let's have our luck turn round then. It is time for the Canadian Grand Prix.
Lights Out in Canada is approaching at a venue where the island was built for the 1967 World's Fair. The world has gathered once again. Welcome to the Canadian Grand Prix.
I'll firmly put Spain behind me. Let's go get the quadruple. 5 red lights. Lights out and away we go. Initially quite hesitant at the start, but we get it all together in the end and get a sensational launch compared to everyone else. Easily up into turn 1 in the lead with no squabbles at all. It's actually behind us where all the magic is happening. Sainz trying to get around Sergio Perez and actually gets past the Red Bull. Fantastic from the Ferraris. Red Bull, who have ran rampant at the beginning of this season, find themselves in a very precarious position as we set about eating up the miles then for this first lap of the Grand Prix. Trying to get outside of a second. Sainz actually keeps up very well briefly, where the only one really starting on the mediums is either hards or softs everywhere else. But through the final chicane, the gap already at 1.1 seconds. Fastest lap, courtesy of the fact that we're first. Flex. But what a start to this Canadian Grand Prix, and what pace we're already putting down on the table for the others to try and scavenge for. Let's have a replay at the start then. 5 red lights. As you can see, actually everyone taking ages to get away. Really hesitant all round. It's actually Verstappen that probably gets the best start, but us on our medium tyres bite into the bitumen the best, and we are well off into the lead. But as you can see behind us, where all the magic is happening, that's Sainz just cleanly going round the outside of Perez there. Here's Tsunoda, who qualified brilliantly inside the top 10. It's Alonso with a grid penalty, actually, which has, well, not really hurt his chances that much. But down the inside, Yuki Tsunoda, out of nowhere, past George Russell, past Lando Norris, up into P7, and challenging the greatest driver of this century, Lewis Hamilton. But, yeah, the statistics do matter, sorry Yuki. However, what a job he's doing for AlphaTauri, and hopefully, if he gets points in this race, he'll be doing their statistics a world of favour. As you can see, Norris actually on the mediums. It's Piastri who's the first of the soft tyre runners in this race. So that's very interesting, and we'll see him surely charge up the field. On board with Alonso then, announced his retirement last race. And at the start, we're beginning to see why, because actually, he's bad. Just in case any of you need a prescription to read that, just to be quite clear, I am joking. But getting passed by Albon on the first lap probably wasn't part of Alonso's script, but that's unfortunately the hand of cards he's been dealt. Meanwhile, up ahead, it's his teammate, who's looking very racy indeed. And immediately, here's someone else who's looking very racy. Piastri, as Russell gets bunged up behind Tsunoda. Norris takes back that 7th position. Piastri takes advantage of the slowing Tsunoda, and down the inside of George Russell. Yes, he's on the softs, but McLaren could have both their cars well inside the points in this race if they play their cards right. Piastri with the superior traction, and up into P9. Great work from the Australian against the Mercedes driver, who at the moment plummets down the order. So Russell is being rustled. That's not a sentence you hear very often, but it's one I've used today. Piastri, though, isn't done yet. Later that same lap, round the outside of Tsunoda at the hairpin, got superior traction once again, this time at the chicane beforehand, and outside of the hairpin, it's not even close. It's like a year 11 versus a year 7 on a football pitch. It's absolutely unrivaled stuff. Tsunoda not done yet, though, looking to take Piastri back to school for re-education. However, the straight is just not long enough to make a move. Meanwhile, here's our point of view, and I call this the Max Verstappen effect. And by that I mean we hardly get any screen time because we are absolutely flying. DRS enabled last lap, ignore. But we're 3 seconds almost ahead of Carlos Sainz, who has Sergio with both the Red Bulls for company, really. Both well within DRS range of one another. Leclerc slowly slipping away from the battle up ahead. But this is just getting better and better for myself as we sprint off into Narnia and we look to continue to increase that gap. So I wonder what everyone else is doing. Funny you should ask that. Me. Anyway, looking at 7-time world champion Sir Lewis Hamilton, who's actually caught up to Leclerc quite well here. So Mercedes are not down and out of this race, although Russell's not done well. No! Hamilton slows! No! On lap number 4, only lap 4 of this race, it's 2 Mercedes power units up in smokes in just 2 races. He pulls off to the side of the track, and Toto Wolff is breaking another set of bogeys because that is not what he was hoping for. Meanwhile, on the other side of the coin, in the world of Pierre Gasly, his world's been turned upside down because he's been overtaken, officially, by Nick de Vries. Anyway, while all of this shenanigans is happening, it's just going from bad to worse for Mercedes, because before Hamilton retired from this race, here's George Russell, and he's lost a place to Kevin Magnussen. So Russell outside of the points, and now under threat from Alex Albon, who's on his outside, and he's going to make a sumptuous move, or try to, running rings around Russell. This is not what he would have wanted at all, but traction at the exit. He has the superior momentum initially, but again, those softs biting down into the surface, and it's all getting chaotic behind. Stroll trying to find the way past, actually opens the door for Alonso, his teammate, who says, thank you very much, I'll send a first-class one round the outside. But Albon gets past Russell. Fantastic move. Round the outside, the traction on the soft still superior, and despite everything, Russell doesn't have DRS, and it could get even worse for him, because Alonso, you know he's the wily old fox. Yes, he's lost a few synapses in his 40-something years, but he's not done yet, as he opens DRS, announced his retirement, but he's going to send Russell to the retirement home. Round the outside he goes, turns to the inside for the next corner, and still the two remain side by side, but unfortunately no. No, he doesn't, because Alonso spots the yellow flags due to Hamilton, and Russell can go on his merry way. Speaking of merry way, here we are, and we are just setting the times ablaze. Lap after lap after lap, we continue to increase that gap always. And we're now nearly up to 7 seconds ahead of Perez. Oh, Perez! Perez has got past Sainz. Never mind, it all gets interesting behind. The championship leader wants to minimize the damage as much as possible. But here we are, lap number 7. Ignore. Just firmly ignore. I just wanted to do some lawn mowing, you know, to celebrate the release of the new WRC game being announced. There's a... who's it made by it? Oh, God, we're so screwed. Anyway, while I was debating the release of a new rally game, that was Perez getting past Sainz. But now comes the part of the race where the softs begin to wear out, and Russell is back on the move. The hard tyres, and he's absolutely sent Albon for a bag of chips round the outside at the hairpin. So great little move there from the Mercedes man, and he will have DRS, but so does Albon. But that will not curtail Alonso's charge. Has the outside line for the chicane, and is actually probably passed by the time he gets there. Nicely done from the Aston Martin, who continues his surge. And Albon, who was right up at the sharp end and in the quest for points, has found... No! Alex Albon, what have you done? I was saying he was firmly in the quest for points, and he is firmly out of the quest for points. What have you done, son? Lap number 10, nearly on to lap number 11 now. 9 seconds to gap, and, you know, I was hoping things get a bit interesting. Oh! Well, not a moment too soon. The heavens have opened at the Canadian Grand Prix. I forgot to say it earlier, but it was indeed a wet-to-dry spectacle. That is going to sauce up the field quite a bit, I would imagine. At the moment, the track nowhere near greasy enough, but it could explain why Albon had that little off. And look how far back he is. I mean, he's closer to Texas than he is to the field at the Canadian Grand Prix. That's a horrible sight to see after he was really in the quest for points. But now it's just a case of weathering the storm and seeing when the tyres can get changed onto the inters.
Okay, track conditions aren't improving. It's your choice as to whether you want to fit full wets next time you come in.
Well, once again, my engineer's comments about as useful as chlamydia there. Anyways, lap number 12, 10 seconds to gap to Perez, who's firmly holding down second. Here he is now through... Oh, no, Perez! You plum sack! What have you done? Has absolutely pirouetted round. It's unfortunately only a 3/4 spin, so it's only a 7.5 out of 10 from the strictly judges. But this moron thought once again that full throttle, whilst in the wetter conditions, during a middle of a corner, was a good idea. But in other news, it means the McLarens of Norris and Piastri are 5th and 6th. What an effort from those two, and what an effort from Piastri, by the way, to be able to keep up with his teammate despite being on soft still. He is a tyre whisperer and a half. But anyway, here we are on the previous lap, lap number 11, here with Valtteri Bottas. Oh no! Oh, good grief, the Pirelli tyres let go big time. Bottas with one wheel up in the air, as that, obviously, that right rear tyre can't sustain itself. I mean, it's softer than me. Enough about my Friday nights, though. Bottas's right rear has a small case of death. Meanwhile, Fittipaldi's now holding down 16th. My teammate's doing actually rather well in this race and holding up Logan Sargent, so kudos to him, you know, beating his main competition, which, granted, isn't that ambitious, but you know what? It's the thought that counts. Lap number 14 now, nearly approaching the end of lap number 14. The gap 13 seconds to Carlos Sainz, who once again inherited second place after Perez was himself. You can see the track is, well, not really a track anymore and more like the Indian Ocean. Not that this is anywhere near the Indian Ocean, but anyway, the point is, it's quite wet. And we're going down the straight now. Obviously, we're going to pit at the end of this lap, despite my engineer nattering about how he thinks there's no difference between the dries and the inters, to which I say, get a new guide dog. Into the pits we go, though, for a set of intermediate tyres. We've held the mediums out so well. Can we get a purple turn in? Oh, yes, we can. Thanks again, Cristiano, for ruining my eardrums. This time, no dramas in the pit stops, which we've experienced so many times this season in comparison. Out of the pits with no problems, and we keep the lead. We have the fastest lap, and we've led every lap. We could be on for a grand slam in our Formula 1 career. This is quite the race we are having today. We probably could have done it at Monaco as well, but I simply couldn't be bothered. What I can be bothered to show you is Ferrari being Ferrari. Now, the double stack was absolutely horrendous. Lando Norris into the pit box. And as you can see, he gets out ahead of Charles Leclerc. The McLaren boys doing an incredible effort in the pits. And Leclerc now staring at the rear end of that papaya machine. Not what the Scuderia would have wanted at all. The prancing horse has had to be put down with an obscene amount of ketamine. Meanwhile, Stroll's still out on drive. He's finished. Here we are, though. Lap number 60. And the gap remains at 13 seconds. And we are feeling very, very smug indeed. Although our fuel is looking a little bit precarious. So we're just keeping an eye on that. But at the moment, we are absolutely fine. We're leading, like I said, 13 seconds. Here's Verstappen. We know how good he is in the wet conditions. Trying to catch sides. Where on earth's he going? No! Oh, no! Max Verstappen is out of the Canadian Grand Prix in dramatic fashion. The Dutch driver finds barrier as he goes towards the hairpin. He rarely ever makes a mistake. And what the fuck?
Okay, we've got a full course caution. The safety car's out. Keep an eye on the delta. We need to keep it positive to avoid a penalty. Slow down, maintain positive delta. Okay, information on Verstappen. Okay, it looks like the problem's terminal. They're retiring the car.
Predictably, it's a safety car then, for obvious reasons. There's debris everywhere and skill issues at the hairpin. Or just one skill issue, and his name is Max Verstappen. However, I'm not going to show you the safety car period, because that's boring, and you know what happens. It's a procession. So, here we are, end of the safety car. It's time to pull the trigger, and we've done it just before the chicane. And away we go. And because of Verstappen's oopsie, now Lando Norris finds himself in the potential podium position for McLaren. Their first one of the season, that would be. And what an effort that would be for the British-based team. After all of the hardship they've experienced at the beginning of this season, Norris has kind of deadlifted them during the course of this. But now they have a real opportunity of getting some big points. I'm not even talking about us because we're away. We're gone, and despite a little shimmy, we have absolutely rocketed. Sainz does keep up quite well. No, Lando! Side by side with Leclerc. Keep holding on, my friend. No, he can't. And I genuinely think, my engineer didn't tell me this, he had a huge problem with his car because he sunk like a brick, the poor bastard. He absolutely sunk. Meanwhile, we're a second ahead of Carlos Sainz now, just taking it easy and feeling out the conditions once again, getting our tyres up to the right temperature window. Across the line we go, the gap at 1.3, and we should be home and dry, in theory. Meanwhile, looking at George Russell now, and no, Tsunoda! Slightly wide. The AlphaTauri driver's hardly put a foot wrong in this race, but he's just left the door open, and here comes the Mercedes driver, looking for revenge after the first scuffles round the outside of the chicane. And George Russell sails past the AlphaTauri of Tsunoda, who would have been hoping for a little more wind backing him up during these wet conditions. Unfortunately, his canoe couldn't do the job. And Russell says, I'm not done yet. I said Norris sunk like a brick, but round the outside goes Russell once again. He's absolutely dancing around these fellas. It's embarrassing for them. And traction on the exit. Norris, though, giving him a good fight, not putting anything to chance, but unfortunately that engine issue or whatever issue he has just holding him back a bit too much. Russell through into P6. Meanwhile, here we are, and I can't lie to you, we've had an absolute stormer, like completely. Ferrari might be 2-3 in this race, but really there's only one man who's dominated the entire field, sent them back to school to reassess themselves, because oh my goodness me, have we done an effort and a half. We still can't learn how to take corners properly, but I'll tell you what, leading by 3.5 seconds might redeem ourselves slightly. Lap number 23 here now, the gap almost at 5 seconds. as we get to the hairpin. We've assessed the intermediate conditions and we've found our mojo. And we go a bit wide into the hairpin as braking's getting trickier and trickier. The track getting wetter and wetter. But it's not even going to matter. It is not even going to matter. We have one more lap to do in this race, and then we will have won a 4th race in this season and in our Formula 1 career. So out of the first 2 corners, finding our traction, it's actually the battle for 4th place that intrigues me more. Oscar Piastri has kept 4th place brilliantly, and Perez, while hot on his heels, the gap still at a second just about. So the Piastri and the McLaren has done an incredible effort as we skate round the left-hander, which was not part of the script realistically, and we once again skate round, do a little bit of showboating for the crowd. And they've gone mild. Anyway, they'll be on their feet, jumping for joy soon come the end of this race. They've braved the wet conditions, bless them. They're probably drenched, but so are we, so they can take their complaints and shove it where the sun don't shine, quite frankly. Into the hairpin for the final time. It does look like Oscar Piastri will keep P4. Not only that, but Norris, despite the issues, might actually keep P7. I'm just watching him. Yes, there's an almighty train of cars, but he's done just enough to keep them at bay. So well done to McLaren, who are going to score massive points, but we're already weaving in celebration as we go around the final chicane, dump the power, weave about, slide as much as you want, because we've done it again! It's 4 wins in Formula 1! The Canadian Grand Prix has been our first Grand Slam, and what an incredible race we put in, braving it out until the wet conditions, and then we made the right call at the right time, and whilst our championship rivals faltered, we've gone from strength to
that's
strength.
It then for another magnificent Canadian Grand Prix, and they have hung on to take a sublime victory here today. So, Natalie, what made the difference out there today?
I love it when you go into a race day with no data from the weekend to fall back on. It's a real step into the unknown. Planning goes entirely out of the window.
The faces on our top 3 look so incredibly happy as they make their way up to the podium. A much-deserved victory and a brilliant performance from them all.
What a way to bounce back. After the reliability issues at the Spanish Grand Prix, we had no such problems. We had no problems whatsoever today. We were unstoppable. A race of pure perfection. 2 Ferraris join us on the podium. Red Bull not on the podium for the first time this season then. So, thank Christ. But we are the most decorated man in 2023 currently. We've won 4, Perez has won 3, Verstappen with 2 wins. We have won the most races so far this season. And I'm going to revel in that glory for a very, very long time. Pole position, fastest lap, leading every lap. And that is a Grand Slam on everyone's head top. How about that? McLaren, though, great result for them. Ferrari also, I can't discount them. 2nd and 3rd, the highest scoring team this weekend. McLaren with 4th and 7th, so wonderful effort from them. That will boost their Constructors' Challenge significantly in this season. Fittipaldi, by the way, is on the first screen. He got 14th. Legitimately, he got 14th. So you know what? Enzo Fittipaldi, I'm going to give you, that's right, a clap. Anyway, back to the meat of the horse, and Tsunoda really has milked that horse, because with 8th place, he's really done the job today. That's probably the worst phrase I've done, I'm sorry. Still, though, crucial points for AlphaTauri, gutted for Albon and Bottas, and Hamilton, to be honest with you, through no fault of their own. Verstappen's inept, so he can do one. Meanwhile, Drivers' Championship standings, we are back into 2nd in the standings, and we are 6 points off Sergio Perez. Oh, we are firmly in the hunt. I think I can confidently say we are a championship contender in the Drivers' standings. Not in the Constructors, because Fittipaldi is actually a platypus, but we are firmly in the hunt here. Perez and Verstappen dropping the ball this weekend, and we have been on it like a car bonnet. Carlos Sainz and Leclerc do a great job for Ferrari. It's just 4 drivers yet to score points now. Tsunoda up to 8 points. Oscar Piastri up to 9th in the standings after his incredible efforts, so kudos to him for really boosting his chances in the drivers' standings, just ahead of Ocon on countback. So that's great stuff for him. Meanwhile, Constructors, like I said, McLaren now jump ahead of Alpine. So well done them, and they're only going to go from strength to strength, I think. We're back up to 3rd in the Constructors, and, I mean, I've said it can't continue before, but genuinely, I think it can now. Oh, yeah, from one Ferrari driver to the next, because, you know, Leclerc, he didn't want it. Leclerc disappears into the ether then, for shame. Meanwhile, we get our acclaim firmly boosted again, bouncing back from Spain. Codemasters can do one, considering it wasn't my fault last time out. Both our sponsors, though, very happy indeed. 333k. It's going to be boosted to 350. Apparently, I've had another practice skill issue, but we don't need to talk about that. Up to $1.3 million in the bank. And now we need to manage our sponsors, because our contract with Equator Oil has ran out, which, given the state of the world, is probably a good thing. So we're actually going to show we can achieve with our new sponsor, Achievey. Or... Anyway, their goal was pretty attainable, so they're on the car for the next few race weekends. So welcome along for the ride. And they should be very thankful to be along for the ride, because we are back in the hot seat and at the forefront of Formula 1. Right in the hunt. We smell blood in the water for first place. I hope Perez is feeling nervous, because we are on our way. Thank you very much for watching yet another episode of the Myteam journey. If you did enjoy, leave it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Content's coming to your screens from this channel every single day for the next however many days out of 100 we're on now. It doesn't really matter, you can see it in the description, but the point is, I'm uploading every single day for quite a while yet. We head to Austria next, so we'll look to build our form even more. Until then, thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful day. And I'll see you soon.